Welcome back. You're still watching The Globe. Arguably one of the most eagerly awaited study findings in HIV are from research on an antiretroviral ARV injection that may prevent HIV infection in women. If it works, the option of getting an injection every 2 months could provide women with a new way to prevent HIV infection. Dubbed HPTN 084, the trial is being conducted by the HIV Prevention Trials Network in sexually active women in South Africa, Kenya, Malawi, Botswana, Zimbabwe and Uganda. Approximately 3,200 women aged between 18 and 45 will participate in this trial, with results expected in 2021. Experts, though, say that results may be ready earlier if interim reviews of the data find that the injection clearly does or doesn't work. We've asked Professor Linda-Gail Bekker, a physician, a scientist with a keen interest in HIV, tuberculosis and related diseases. She joins me now via Skype. Prof, thanks very much indeed for joining us and welcome to the program.
Hi, Peter. Pleasure to be here.
All right. Give us a little bit of background to this study. I know we were chatting just before we went on air that there's a brother study that's been taking place at the same time.
Correct, Peter. That was called HPTN 083. It was conducted in the north and here at one site in South Africa, in Cape Town. And that was engaging men who have sex with men and transgender women. And both studies cannot be compared to placebo because that no longer is ethical. So they're compared to the equivalent oral agent, which can be taken daily. And in that brother study, it was shown that the long-acting injectable performed not only as well, but actually better than the oral agent. So that was really very good news and holds out a lot of hope for the women's study. So we're waiting to hear with bated breath what we'll find with women.
All right, let's talk a little bit about the properties of this injection and how is it that it works for women, and is it not something that men can take?
Yes, the study at the moment is engaging young women and girls, adolescent girls, because that's where we see the highest incidence in this part of the world. So we're focusing on that group, but there's no reason why, if we find it to be useful in women, we wouldn't imagine that it could also work in heterosexual men. And I think it's just how the study has been designed in order to get the result as quickly as possible and get the agent licensed for the population who needs it most.
All right. So tell us a little bit about how this injection is supposed to work. What does it do?
So it's an antiretroviral called cabotegravir. It's an integrase inhibitor. This is a recently recognized class of antiretrovirals. The interesting property of this is that it is redesigned as a depot. So it's long-acting. So the injection goes into the buttock, and over a period of 2 months, the antiretrovirals slowly disseminate in a very steady way throughout the body, so you don't have to take a daily pill or take a daily agent. And women who use depot contraception will understand this very well. It works on that same principle. And the idea is that you are then protected with the antiretroviral for a period of 8 weeks, which obviously is great for people who find it difficult to take a daily pill. And there are many of us who struggle with that. And so this gives an alternative. It's not to say the daily pill will go away. That remains an option, and it's a wonderful option. But we really need choice in the world of prevention so that people can adopt the best methodology for themselves.
All right. So again, explain to us a little bit about antiretrovirals, because my understanding has always been you get HIV and at some point you start taking antiretrovirals when your CD4 count gets to a certain point. So now you're saying we're taking them in advance of possible infection.
Correct. So quite right, Peter. Antiretrovirals have their mainstay for treatment And in fact, I'll just update you that now we give treatment the moment we diagnose people. We don't wait for their CD4 to drop anymore. So people should find treatment as soon as they know their diagnosis. But in about 2010, we had the first pre-exposure prophylaxis study. And now we know that taking antiretrovirals prior to exposure can protect individuals from HIV should they be exposed to the virus and the virus come on board. So that's called PrEP, and it's a new way of preventing HIV.
All right, and then we started to hear about people who might have been raped or exposed to someone who is HIV positive. They're given a cocktail of drugs. So is this a development of that treatment then, that preventative treatment?
Correct. So spot on, Peter. So that's known as post-exposure prophylaxis, and that was giving antiretrovirals within 72 hours of HIV exposure. So that may be either a needle stick injury, if you're a healthcare worker or somebody in the sort of, medical field, or, as you say, very importantly, sexual assault. So if someone is assaulted by somebody who is known to be HIV positive or suspected to be, then we offer them post-exposure prophylaxis with antiretroviral agents. So we now have pre- and post-exposure prophylaxis, and then, of course, we have treatment for those who have HIV and need to be on therapy.
All right, so how do you make sense of the results now? You've got 3,200 people who get given this injection. How do you work out whether it's worked or not?
So the study is designed to show non-inferiority to oral PrEP. That means we want to see that it is as good as the current standard of prevention, which is a daily pill to be taken to prevent HIV. And if we show that, then it's potentially licensable as an agent that can be held next door or alongside oral PrEP. What I'm hinting at, though, is, in fact, it performed so well in the men's study that it was found to be superior to oral daily PrEP. And so we'll have to wait and see if we get a similar kind of result. So every woman is taking both either the cabotegravir injection and a sham daily pill, or they're taking real oral PrEP and a sham injection. So it's called a double dummy, double placebo trial. And it's carefully designed to be ethically correct. And at the end of the day, we'll be able to count up the infections that may occur, and that'll give us a sense of whether one is as good as the other.
And this could be life-changing because, as you said, compliance can be quite difficult. Life is not an exact science, and taking the pills at the same time every day can be quite a challenge. And we've seen with COVID-19, access to medication became problematic. So having one injection every 2 months is gold.
Correct. And, again, I can't emphasize enough, options means that giving people choice means that they can take the modality that suits them best. And in the world of contraception, we know that that's really important. If women can choose the contraception that works best for them, they're more likely to adhere. And we think it's probably going to be the same for HIV prevention. So it is exciting times, and there's even more exciting possibilities coming down the pike. So, I think we're on a good wicket towards ending the HIV epidemic eventually, if we can just push through to the end. Just really want to thank all the participants who take part in these trials, because they enable this kind of, innovation.
So the trial is, I think you targeted women aged between 18 and 45, but we do know on the continent that girls as young, very young, often are exposed to some kind of sexual activity. Would they be able to take these injections if parents, for example, are concerned about their children?
Yes, I think, all the developers now, the pharmaceutical agencies, etc., who are developing these agents have plans to roll prevention down into the younger age groups. Typically, though, we test the agents first in adults, just for reasons of informed consent and wanting to do the right ethical thing. But it's very important, and already many of us are engaging with the R&D people to say, how do we roll the age down in a way that our regulators will be able to include younger people into these trials? And certainly this has already happened in treatment. This particular agent is also available for treatment. And so, we can also extrapolate some of the data coming out of the treatment world into the prevention world. So definitely we do have our eye on making sure that this is available for younger members of the South African population as well.
All right. How far along are we with this trial, and what sort of indicators have you had to date? We've seen COVID-19 studies now where there were side effects and they weren't sure whether they were related to the medicines themselves. How has this one gone so far, and the brother study as well?
So generally, the injection is well tolerated. The antiretroviral has very few side effects. It's quite safe. There is some injection pain. It's quite a large volume of an injection. And so, for a couple of days, the bottom feels a bit sore, but it settles down. And then really there's nothing to worry about for 2 months. So that's the real beauty of it. So, on the whole, it's looking very clean and very, very promising. So you're right. These are another reason we do these clinical trials is obviously to make sure that they're safe and well tolerated. And certainly on the brother side, that has been the case. So no worries looking yet out of the woman study. And so again, a lot of promise.
Are there similar studies taking place around the world at the moment?
Yes, so the Men Who Have Sex with Men study, transgender, was done all over the world. So as I mentioned, we had one site in Africa. Most of the other participants came from other regions of the world. The woman study is only happening in East, Central and South Africa. And I'm afraid that speaks to the burden of our disease. So we, contribute the biggest number of infections amongst women in the world from this region, and so that is why these studies happen here, because this is where HIV is particularly burdened in the female population.
All right. So prevention, and I wanted now to get a bit clear. So when I was a kid, I had a BCG injection, and that sort of freed me from infection for the rest of my life, in theory. Are we going to get to a point, are we getting closer to a point where we could be inoculated against HIV completely?
Well, Peter, what I can tell you is there are other molecules and products coming down the line that are going to be formulated as implants. And those implants might only need to be changed annually. So, yes, I think we are creeping closer to a place where you might get some kind of agent on board, and then that could protect you for a really long time. Ultimately, though, as you mentioned, vaccines are the holy grail, and so we continue our quest for an HIV vaccine that is safe and efficacious and preventive, and so that work goes on. And then ultimately, there is also our effort to find a cure for HIV for those people who already live with HIV, and that work also continues. So we're not giving up the fight. We've had to take a little break to take care of COVID, of course, but in the background, we still have HIV very much in our crosshairs, and we're coming for HIV with a lot of enthusiasm to shut it down forever.
Prof, we wish you the very best, and good luck with this study in particular, because I know it's really going to change a lot of lives. Thanks so much indeed for sharing your thoughts with us tonight.
Thanks for having me.
Okay, that's Professor Linda-Gail Bekker, physician scientist interested in HIV, tuberculosis and related diseases, talking to us about an interesting study that's only taking place in southern East and East Africa, looking at women with HIV and trying to prevent it with an injection. And hopefully you'll only need to take it once every 2 months or so. So great promise is shown so far. We'll keep you posted on how that is going.